Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Sensual Goat, Neil, Click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
How are you?
I'm alright, I'm starting to get things fixed. So I've done surprisingly well with microphones to the point where I can actually purchase things. So my lights broke, and as you saw in the intro, I managed to actually replace the broken part with money that I have, which is amazing. I also bought myself a shock mount and took one of the ads down that I'd got up for a microphone that I was selling. Coincidentally, the same microphone that Simon Dan uses. So I've taken that down, so I've got a couple of those microphones in case I ever end up in a scenario where we're going to record a guest in this space where I've acoustically treated. And that's good. Well, it's going to tell you. Tested that earlier with my daughter. So her and I made a little podcast, if you want to call it that, where we checked how well two dynamic mics would work in the same room. My Stream Deck has started playing up, even though it's a brand new Stream Deck, and by brand new I mean I haven't dropped it. It replaced one that has been dropped that was doing the same thing. Although since I've plugged it into the front of the USB-C connection on the front of my computer, it seems to have stopped causing that problem, so maybe it's just that I've got an extension lead on it and that's the problem. In any event, other than that, everything's going reasonably well. How are you, Neil?
I could go for some housekeeping questions.
Okay. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as Earth curvature?
There must be.
There must be?
Yeah, because David Attenborough has been knighted, and he's trusted by the highest authority of this land, and he's a heliocentrist, Nathan. So there must be a geometric sphere edge.
It's like saying Copernicus was a Christian because he was doing the work of the Roman Catholic Church when he used their telescopes. Now, yes, he was. But because everybody was, that's what you did. The information about heliocentrism would have been passed down to the general common man via the church, because everyone went to the church. That's how it was back in the day. So it's one where I'm pushing the fact that in the information age, there's only one thing that you can do if you've got an old rhetoric like heliocentrism that was passed down from the church on a Sunday, and that's outweigh the amount of noise that we make when pointing out that Earth was always and always will be measured flat. Now, if you can get people apologising for how flat it is by saying things like, we self-correct gyroscopes for Earth's curvature, look how pendulous vanes work, you can go, okay, well that will fly, no metaphor or no pun intended, with the audience that hears that more than they hear us going, well, we just measure Earth flat with gyros. Look, here's straight and level flight. You never heard a flight controller tell a plane to ascend to a certain flight level? Well, there's a reason they use that terminology. It's because that's what they're doing. Now, if your opponent, in this case, with a pretend argument where Earth is assumed to be flat to create a ball, to then argue that it isn't flat by people who believe in the ball, that's stupid nonsense that we've been taking part in for the last 10 years. That'll die eventually, because people will recognise how Earth's measured in the face of the loudness level of people saying, yeah, it's flat, but only locally, like Dan's currently doing. And that doesn't mean that we can't eventually use spherical trig on a massive scale. We correct for balls all the time, says Dan. Now, that will wash for a while. But what's he really doing? Well, he's apologising for how measurements of an Earth that's flat are used by surveyors, according to him, over a 50-kilometre distance. The apology being, but that's because we wouldn't use spherical trig at 50k. It's perfectly fine to use flat Earth trig. Straight baselines, flat triangles, yeah. That is what we do, and Dave and Dan and whoever else refers to any Earth measurements will just say, well, that's only local, like it makes any difference. We do and are and will always measure Earth flat. When any of the numpties who oppose us, the noise I'm describing, try to suggest that, yeah, it's flat locally, but that's stupid to say it doesn't mean we're on a big ball. Well, okay, but we don't get any ball measurements. What we do is we get conversions to balls from flat measurements. That's what we've been pointing out for the last 2 years. Where's the ball come from then? Where's the radius value measured? It's a minimum angle to Polaris, or, Al Biruni's method, a derivation of your height above surface level, measured with surface level with normal 50k of trig, like Dan's apologising for, to get the height of the mountain. In other words, we measure Earth flat to go up the height of a mountain, and then keep Earth flat with parallel eye level, so the derived maths of a point below the surface level we just measured flat can infer the sphericity with a radial derivation, not measurement. All of the measurements were of the height of the mountain off a flat Earth, your height off the flat Earth surface level, and your parallel eye level that you'll use to calculate the difference when you...
You can't do that.
I can't what?
I can't go out. I can't do this. For a start, if you're going to claim spherical trig, you'll have to produce this spherical trigonometry.
I'm not Dan.
You just claimed it. You just said it a minute ago.
I'm
Right.
reiterating, stop. I'm reiterating Dan's position in the matter. His claim is, yes, we measure Earth flat locally, 50k locally, for the height of the mountain locally. It's all fine. Yes, perfectly fine to use normal trig, because as flat Earth approximations go over short distances locally, it's okay to measure Earth flat, because on a bigger distance, we'd use spherical trig. Now, I know what's coming from Brian. I should be saying, there is no such thing as spherical trig. There's just trig. There's no such thing as spherical geometry. There's just geometry. This is nonsense waffle from people who want you to believe that once you convert flat Earth measurements into a model that's spherical, and then create PZX bending triangles on a surface that's created from an equatorial plane inside a globe you're measuring from within, that those called spherical trig and spherical geometry is just trig and geometry after a conversion to a globe that you'll never measure the surface of. You're always within a globe measuring a glorified protractor. But me going through that when I'm just explaining that Dan's apologies are as follows. Yes, we measure Earth flat locally. It's just locally. And that's fine to use normal trig. What? Flat Earth trig. Normal trig. Locally, says Dan. But that's because it's a really big ball and we do measure it ball-shaped. He doesn't example where. He doesn't detail what spherical trig is. He doesn't give any spherical geometry. He just assures his audience that yes, we can measure it flat because we measure it at a bigger scale, ball-shaped. That's it. I'm just explaining that, Brian. That's it.
Yeah, I understand that Dan is saying it, but Dan is also saying the term, as you used a minute ago, flat Earth trig. There's no such thing. This was one of the things that we want to say, yeah, was there isn't just trigonometry. Just like there's just geometry. The rhetoric that these people use, they use it to infer that there is such a thing as a flat Earth trig and a spherical trig. There isn't. There isn't flat Earth geometry and spherical geometry. There isn't. There's just trigonometry and geometry. And what they're trying to infer, they don't even understand. This is the point. Dan could not tell me where these plain spherical triangles came from or how they're created. He wouldn't be able to tell you. I can nearly guarantee he won't be able to give you the full.
But I can.
Some semblance of it. Fair enough. 1 second, but he can't. Now, I'll go on to the next point in a minute because we're on this one at the moment. Go on.
Well, that's it. I mean, all we're saying, well, actually, coincidentally, this is the diagrammatical example of the equatorial plane I've just exampled. I'll just pause this screenshot. Just 1 second, Brian. Can you see this in the Hangout?
Yeah, I can.
Well, this is what, when I say Earth's a glorified protractor, this is the diagrammatical example of exactly that when I'm saying it. You've got you on this cutout in the centre of a sphere Earth that creates the PZX triangles, which would be the curved so-called sphere Earth geometry or sphere Earth trig. As a different example, when they say, well, when we add up the triangle on the surface of the ball Earth model, it adds up to more than 180. And you're like, what does? If you've got this line meeting this line here, that's not a triangle. That's two bent lines meeting. What you've actually done, though, is plotted out a point from this, the equatorial plane, to the enlarged, although you wouldn't fit it on this screen, celestial sphere that would wrap around this. But all of it's modelled with respect to angles that you would measure from in the ball, through the ball, to star positions outside of what becomes a glorified protractor, globe Earth. That they think that because you can then mathematise those PZX triangles on the surface of this glorified protractor, that means that somehow that's spherical trig working, where the flat Earth angles that are measured off Earth's surface to create those positions, PZX triangles that is, like they don't exist. It's like, no, we checked. We measured the angles. They're measured off this bit. The flat plane, it's called the equatorial plane if you want to reference what's actually being used to tie to a surface level measurement of Earth. It'll be converted from the PZX non-angles with an angle measurement off a tangent plane into the globe Earth to make it function, or it'll just be shown directly on the equatorial plane as a straight up angle through the globe Earth to a surrounding sphere. Now, how do you create this globe in the first place to put you inside it, right? What do you do to create it? Well, you measure the angle to Polaris at its minimum. That's the equator. Well, how do you measure it? Well, with a flat Earth elevation angle. Earth's measured flat to create this ball. Now, like when Brian's saying they wouldn't understand what spherical trig really is, as I've just tried to unpack it in the most concise way possible on a live stream, that's a complicated methodology. But you, Brian, is suggesting that they wouldn't know how to unpack that. Correct? Is that what you're suggesting when they say spherical trig or spherical geometry?
Well, yeah, they couldn't know how to unpack it. They don't know what they're talking about. They think spherical triangles exist. They don't realise that what they're calling spherical trigonometry is just, spherical geometry is just geometry. They don't understand that. And more to the point, what they don't understand is where it actually comes from. What man would call a PZX triangle is actually just a pre-assumption of a celestial dome. That's all it is. So when they have angles to three separate celestial bodies in the sky, they decide that the distances between them are curved and create a dome out of it. Then that's off of the flat plane we stand upon, we live upon, off of mean sea level basically. But we don't stand on mean sea level, but you know what I'm saying? It's off of that. We're off of sea level. So the point being is that what they'll then do is reproject halfway between us or some way between the actual flat reality we live on and this mathematical sky dome they will have created. They'll project a globe, like a globe's hemisphere. That's what they'll project, and that's what they do. There is no such thing as a PZX triangle. If people are talking about some curved thing in the sky, that's not a triangle. None of that is a triangle. You cannot curve a triangle. It's not a triangle anymore. No matter what way you twist or turn it, no matter what fancy name you give to it. Right. Even what, like, see that flat, see on your presentation there, see that flat square there. That is what they're trying to claim is locally flat. This is absolute nonsense. Everything they have to do involves the flat plane. There is nowhere, anywhere in history where they've actually or anything. It's a pre-assumption that's based off of the pre-assumption that the sky is curved. And they know that it's not. They just do it mathematically curving it so they can then project a ball within it
Exactly.
off of the same flat plane. The whole thing is a complete sham.
Yeah, so at the moment what's going on is I'm pointing out that Earth is measured flat, and Brian's pointing out that if you want to convert the model and assume that what you're measuring is from the surface, then you've got a single tangential point that doesn't form angles, and then you measure this area locally flat. I'll just say that again. You measure it, that's Earth, flat. You, ball believers, you measure Earth flat. There is no getting away from this. Ever. Now, if you want to deny how your Earth functions, you can deny the tangent plane that will later be converted to the equatorial plane inside the ball. That's where we've got these diagrams from. They're yours. Yeah? Where do you think we got this from? Do you think it's mine? You think I made this? No, it's how a ball functions when you measure Earth flat. So what are you going to do when I point this out and you understand at any level how you functionally measure Earth, like Dan's figured out? He's got to apologise for how he's going to measure Earth flat locally for 50k. Now, is he going to deny that flat Earth measurement? Of course not. He's measured it 1,000 times with his audience participating for an elevation angle off Earth's surface. So he's measuring Earth flat, and he damn well knows it. So he's never going to contest what I say. All he can do is apologise for how he will measure Earth flat. But that doesn't mean it's flat. What is Nathan, some kind of dum-dum? Listen to what Dan's saying in his video about me. He's explaining that just because Nathan says it is what we measure, yeah, what you measure is Earth flat, and I'm saying it is what you measure. Dan's saying we measure Earth flat, but that means it's a really big ball. Yeah, that's where we're at. You measure Earth flat, I measure Earth flat. We have always measured Earth flat. That's how it gets measured. Always, without exception. Now, when Dan looks into Nathan's claim that Earth gets measured flat, he'll validate it 1,000 times. He won't say I'm wrong. He'll go and get his audience to measure elevation angles to the sun 1,000 times. When Dave McKeegan says Nathan's a numpty, he says we measure Earth flat, he'll go and he'll measure Earth flat with elevation angle measurements to the sun in Antarctica. These are facts. Now, if you don't understand this because you're thick, that's my audience, probably the globe-believing side, then that's fine. Go and ask Dan, because he understands how flat Earth must be measured with basic trig, and understands how he's got to apologise for how it's acceptable to measure Earth flat with normal trig, because he does measure Earth flat. Always, without exception. Prove me wrong, because so far we've got Dave in Antarctica measuring Earth flat with elevation angles for a 24-hour period, and we've got Dan getting 1,000 members of his audience to go out and measure Earth flat with elevation angle measurements. This isn't you debunking me, lads. It's you apologising for how globe-shaped it isn't when you measure Earth flat. Locally! Obviously, we've got negligible curvature when we measure Earth flat. Okay, so if I summarise your position, you don't measure any curvature locally because it's negligible. Therefore, because of the lack of curve that you're measuring, that means you're not measuring any. It's okay, says Simon Dan, to measure Earth flat. Why would we measure it curving? Obviously, we can convert these flat Earth measurements to be inside a sphere after we measure this flat Earth. But it's a tangential plane to a ball that we've assumed in this model when we measure Earth flat. So nobody's going to be disagreeing with me. Nobody's going to be providing National Transportation Safety Board information that deviates from the flat plane we measure with raw data. Those are the measurements of Earth. Now, does that sound alien to anybody when they hear a flight controller telling a plane to go to a flight level? And the flight level's parallel with sea level? Now, Earth was always being measured flat by everyone. There wasn't ever an exception. And you don't need to be a rocket surgeon to wrap your head around just how flat Earth is being dealt with. Just go and listen to anything that's got any life or death scenarios attached to it, and you'll understand immediately why Simon Dan's apologising for the flat Earth measurements locally that you're measuring Earth with and surveying Earth with. Now, Dan can call it, it's just a flat Earth approximation when they survey Earth. It's not. They're measuring Earth flat. They're surveying it. Now, he can say it's for convenience that you measure Earth flat. And it's just because we have negligible curvature when you measure Earth flat. But you do measure Earth flat. There's no exceptions to these facts. Ever. And moving forward, we're going to start putting people on blast if they start suggesting that any life or death aircraft raw measurements from black boxes are having deviations hidden by the NTSB. If they're not on the graph, and that's raw data, it is, then that's what is being shown to us as being assessed when people's deaths are investigated. And I won't have a single one of you globe-believing retards pour scorn on the death investigations that the NTSB do when they show us Earth being measured flat. I'm not going to hear about, we've got self-correcting pendulous vanes. It's just not shown on the NTSB flat Earth measurements in the raw data. I'll do as I've done previously and insist that you show me where we've got these necessities for correction that aren't being shown in the raw flat Earth measurements from the NTSB. They're just not in there. Now, if they're correcting something, you better damn well show us. Go ahead.
Is somebody claiming that pendulous vanes are correcting for curvature?
Dave.
You're serious?
Mercury erected gyros that use a small container of mercury. When the gyros tilt off a vertical, gravity will still cause the mercury to sit level to the aircraft's local horizontal. But if the container isn't level, then the mercury will eventually touch one of several switches inside the container.
Perfect. I'm laying down the gauntlet to Dave. Show us this in NTSB pitch data. Should be pretty easy. Spoiler alert, it isn't in there. Now, if Dave's suggesting that this is in there, then he's suggesting that NTSB are meddling with the raw data of the flat Earth that's being measured for the parallel flight with respect to sea level, measured for the chord line of the aircraft's wings to be above the horizontal plane of reference that is measured by the NTSB when they investigate people's deaths. So Dave's a bullshitter. This is not in NTSB pitch data. He won't show it. Earth is being measured flat. And all Dave's doing is lying to you if he suggests that there's anything other than a flat Earth measurement in the NTSB pitch data. This is not in there.
Well, what was he just referencing there in that clip? Well,
He's saying pendulous vanes. This is his reference to pendulous vanes.
They work by a vacuum. They work by a vacuum pump. That's why pendulous vanes work. They don't work by a mercury.
This switch will trigger a reaction from a torque motor that is attached to the gyro to gradually pull the gyro back to vertical. Aircraft typically change attitude at a rate of a few degrees per second.
Pause. Yeah, they don't do that. This is all completely false. No. What the pendulous vanes, the purpose of pendulous vanes was to stop the gyro from losing its orientation, that being horizontal. That's the whole purpose of the pendulous vanes. What pendulous vanes do is they increase the rigidity in space. They stop precession and any other movement that can happen, especially in a fighter jet. But it doesn't happen much with a commercial. See, this is what he doesn't even know. In commercial aircraft, there's hardly any ever need for the pendulous vanes. They have them in there, but there's never really any major need for them because they don't do all the acrobatics that a fighter jet does. So he doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's true, but he's just made a claim, right? What he's just said is that the plane changes.
I'm trying to sort something out here. Forget Dan for a moment, right? Can you please tell me, Nathan, right? When they're coming in for descent, which can be anything from 80 to 150, maybe more miles, how come the pendulous vanes stop working then?
They don't.
How come Yeah, they don't. But according to Dan, they do.
Dave.
By implication, they stop, or Dave, whichever. They're the same idiot, right? According to whichever one of these idiots, right? According to them, they do. Because according to them, they must be self-correcting for something that won't be part of the descent formula that they will use.
Yeah, but it's not, right? I'm just going to say it again, just one more time, Brian, right? I appreciate what you're doing, and to be perfectly honest, I've got 99% of my information in this regard from Brian, so I shouldn't really step on him. It's a bit disrespectful. But nevertheless, we've got pitch data. According to Dave's statement, which we'll hear again in a second, the plane is changing its degrees, which would be with respect to horizontal, as measured in pitch data. And I'm saying, show us it in the pitch data. Now, again, I'll do the same thing I did last time. Spoilers. It's not there. Dave is a bullshitter. Now, he's suggesting to his dumb audience that this happens when we are in commercial flights. Now, his black and white movie that he's appealing to won't trump data from black boxes investigated by the National Transportation Safety Board when they investigate people smashing into the ground. And when they measure the altitude of the plane with respect to the surface level, that's sea level, with altitudes measured with altimeters, and pitch with respect to the chord line of the wings above a horizontal plane of reference, everything that I've just described is measured off a flat Earth and shown in the raw data of pitch in NTSB black box data. Now, Dave will never show you the claim that he's about to make when I repeat this statement that he just made, because it does not happen.
To gradually pull the gyro back to vertical. Aircraft typically change attitude at a rate of a few degrees per second.
Right, so I'm going to lay down the gauntlet. Here's my challenge for Dave McKeegan. Show that in pitch data from the NTSB, lest you be burnt in hell as a lying shitbag. Again, spoilers, it's not in there. Dave's a liar. This is not what we get from the NTSB pitch data when we measure the aircraft with respect to Earth's planar level surface, measured from sea level. For straight and level flight, when raising in altitude measured off sea level, when told to do so by air traffic control with the command to rise to a certain level. These things are axiomatically flat, and that is precisely what the NTSB measurements show. Dave's just claimed that planes typically change their orientation. We'd see it measured in pitch of the plane. It's not true. Dave's lying to you to make you believe that you're on a ball.
That's it. It's worse than that. What Dave is actually doing there is he's denying, number one, he's denying the lift effect. Because what he's claiming there would mean that lift would be impossible. Number one. Number two, he's denying the actual use of pendulous vanes. And what they actually do, he's trying to sell a story of them doing something that they can't do. They're doing the complete opposite of that. Number three, right, he's denying the descent, how a plane descends from what's known as top of descent, how that plane goes from whatever altitude down to 1,000 feet above the airport. They use a triangle for that, a right angle triangle. And that's what they do. He's denying that. And the baseline, the adjacent of that triangle could be anything from 70 to even heading for 180, maybe more sometimes. It depends on the situation. Miles. You know what I mean? You'd have an average of 100. And maybe
yes, you're
over
talking
100,
about things like, I think it's called the ILS.
What? No, forget. No, I'm talking about top of descent. I'm talking about top of descent. Forget the ILS for a moment. Top of descent, we're talking about pendulous veins, we're talking about the lift effect, and the pitch data from the NTSB. So Dave is in opposition to the lift effect. He's in opposition to pendulous veins and how they actually work, what they're actually designed to do, what they actually do. And he's in opposition to how a plane descends and how it takes off, right? And the calculations they use for that, which is trigonometry. And he's in opposition to the NTSB and the pitch data. And for all their flight data, because there's more than pitch in there that destroys them. So he's in opposition to all those things. Dave doesn't know what he's talking about. Dave's an idiot.
Sure, but what I'm saying is the ILS measures Earth flat for the angle of descent towards the aircraft's final position on a flat Earth. That angle is described with respect to a horizontal plane of reference like all Earth measurements. The ILS is a demonstration of Earth being measured flat, and it's incongruent with Dave's lies about what gyros are suggested to do when he refers to a 50-year-old out-of-date black and white video. We will rely on Earth being measured flat in NTSB pitch data because that's precisely how it is tied to the axiomatic sea level being level and flight level being level and parallel with surface level, because that's how the plane's being measured to fly in the black box data that we rely on. Not some crappy old 50-year-old film that says that when planes' gyros deviate, they can be corrected with pendulous vanes, which is the case if the mechanical drift of the gyro occurs in a tight holding pattern, as I exampled earlier. But we'd see it. It would be measured. And it isn't. What we do get from the measured black box life and death data from the NTSB is a flat Earth. That's what we get in terms of how Earth's measured. Now, Dan so far has conceded his 50k of yes, we must measure Earth flat locally when we survey it, for convenience. I mean, we wouldn't expect to measure anything other than a flat Earth with the negligible curve that Dan apologises for the flat Earth measurements he understands we must measure. But meanwhile, we've got a Dave scenario on our hands where I don't really know for certain, but it seems like Dave McKeegan is suggesting that the NTSB fiddle with the data? Because he's suggesting that planes typically are moving in an orientation away from the pitch up with respect to horizontal that's measured over a flat Earth when they investigate people's deaths. Dave seems dangerously close to disrespecting all the people that have had their lives lost and been investigated by the NTSB. How dare he? It seems very disrespectful. I mean, I will just rely on the raw data and measurements of a flat Earth that are provided by the NTSB. I wouldn't go around suggesting with old black and white videos that the NTSB are fiddling with that flat Earth prerequisite data that's shown to be on a flat Earth with their measurements from the black boxes. I wouldn't expect it to be anything other than the raw data that they're using, and the raw data shows Earth's measured flat.
A plane travelling around the globe at 500 miles an hour
would demonstrate it in the pitch data. What Dave has got on screen now would show in the gyroscopic motion moving in its cage. The gimbal would show this on a graph. Facts. The NTSB pitch data does not show this.
Experiences 0.002 degrees of Earth curve each second.
So therefore I'm going to expect to see that on NTSB pitch data. We don't. The flight remains above the horizontal for the duration of the measured level flight. That's what we have got as the measurements from the NTSB. Dave's a liar. This is not measured. Earth is measured flat.
So you're looking at 100 times difference between the rates of change of a gyro going around a globe.
It doesn't. We've got measurements. We checked. Just for the audience's benefit, this hypothetical scenario with a cartoon of a globe and a cartoon of an aeroplane flying around it has been exemplified with the example verbally given by Dave a moment ago about a plane flying around a globe and the variation in the orientation of the plane with respect to a curved surface, if that was the ground. Just so we're all clear, Earth's measured flat. We checked. It's how it was measured in the NTSB flight data from a black box. So Dave's wrong. We know Earth's flat, Dave. We checked. We measured. And the data says contrary to your garbage that you're lying to your audience with while your dog licks you. We checked. Earth's measured flat. Oh, right. Where's the measurements? The National Transportation Safety Board. Black box data used to investigate people who smash into the flat Earth that is measured in that data. It does not show a deviation from the above horizontal pitch orientation of the plane for the duration of its flight. Earth is measured flat. Dave's wrong. Earth's flat. That's how it's measured. We checked.
Versus a plane in typical flight.
I've actually got one of these gyroscopes that Dave's talking about, and I could clarify a little bit on how they work.
No, thank you. No. I don't need you to do that, thank you, Nathan. I've got NTSB pitch data, and the NTSB pitch data uses gyroscopic motion to measure Earth's surface with respect to the horizontal orientation the plane remains in when in level flight. The sea level, the level flight, and the flight level that the plane is in is measured with black box data that the NTSB provide. I don't need you or Bob Nodell or Dave to explain anything to me. I don't think a lot of you are getting it. No offence to you, Nathan, in my audience, in my Discord server. We don't need you anymore. Earth's flat, we checked. So you numpties who think otherwise, you're surplus to requirements. I don't need you to tell me how a gyro works. We've got NTSB pitch data. It's a measurement of Earth's surface. And what are they describing? They're describing sea level. Whoever is interrupting me, if you keep doing it, you're going to get removed from this discussion. Shut your mouth while I tell my audience how I don't need you or anybody else to tell me how a gyro works, okay? I'm good. And in terms of how we're measuring Earth, I'm good. I've got NTSB pitch data for that. Don't need you to explain how I don't understand. I'm good, thanks. Earth's flat, we checked. Is that you muttering, Nathan? Well, I've told you not to.
No, I'm saying I agree with you. You're absolutely right.
Thank you for telling me and my audience how correct I am through the middle of me explaining that, Nathan. When you learn to shut your mouth when I tell you to, you can come back into the discussion.
Yes, sir.
Why are you mumbling through me? I don't need your agreement. I don't need anybody. I'm good. I've got measured flat Earth data from an official source that investigates people's lives being lost. Think I need Dan or Dave to explain how frickin' gyro works? I'm good. We measured Earth. We checked it's flat. You don't need to help us. Now, if you want to tell the NTSB they're wrong, be my guest. I've already given out my email address. It's nathanoakley1980@aol.com. CC me when you tell the NTSB they're wrong with their flat Earth measurements of sea level and level flight. You won't, because they measure Earth flat for a reason. It's because it's flat. Now, I don't need anybody to educate me beyond the measurements I've got. And if you think they're wrong, tell the NTSB, not me. I'll rely on those flat Earth measurements. And I'll trust that when people's lives have been investigated with them, that they've been investigated correctly with the flat Earth measurements that the NTSB used. I will not be so bold as to pour scorn on the people investigating people's deaths with flat Earth measurements from the black box. I will not do that. Now, Dave here might choose to do that by suggesting with a crappy old black and white video that the plane changes its orientation. No, Dave, you're wrong. It's not measured to do that in the life and death black box data used by the National Transportation Safety Board. They use the flat Earth measurements from the gyro that remains rigid in free space. That's what they use. They measure Earth flat, Dave. they're not doing what you say, and they're not having you explain how they're wrong, I'd love to see Dave telling the NTSB that they're supposed to be correcting for a gyro that's drifting. I mean, it's not. Obviously, it wouldn't be a successful gyroscope if it drifted, when it's supposed to be remaining fixed in space. Oh yeah, that's exactly what they use it for. When they measure the surface level and the height above sea level parallel with it. Yeah, these are all flat Earth axiomatic principles being measured, by the way. None of them suggest curvature, because we're measuring Earth flat. That's the facts in these matters. And after 10 years of being told how stupid I am, now I'm being told by people like Dan about how stupid I am for not understanding that you are all okay to measure Earth flat locally. Well, now I'm shoving it right in your face with the NTSB flat Earth measurements. This dick is never going to show you any deviation. No, they are not changing their orientation every second, as he's just suggested. He's a liar, and I've got flat Earth measurements from the NTSB to prove it. Now, we've already debated this with some of his flying monkeys who came to my server the other night. And what did they tell me? They told me that they'd got proof that gyros drift. And what was their standard? It was Bob No Dell, a dead man with a faulty gyro. Not NTSB data. When I asked them to evidence it in the NTSB data, they said it had vanished. I kid you not. That was the word they used. Now, I pointed out to them that it's just not being measured because it isn't there. What is being measured in NTSB data where they investigate why people have crashed into the surface of Earth? They measure it flat. These are facts that you'll never escape, like Dan's not escaping the flat Earth measurements from the surveyors. These are facts that you'll never escape. Earth is measured flat by everyone always. NTSB pitch data is just one example. Dan and his flat Earth 50k, that's just another example. The examples go on and on and on and on. There aren't any exceptions. We only measure Earth flat.
So these methods of gradually
I could give
moving
a clarifying point. I'm not disagreeing at all with anything that you've just said, and I would say excellent. The clarifying point that I would like to give is actually in correction to those who claim that the gyros are correcting for drift.
Okay, let me just address that then. So if anybody wants to suggest that gyros are correcting for drift, my name's Nathan Oakley. My email is nathanoakley1980@aol.com. You will CC me in on your address to the NTSB if you want to suggest that they've hidden the drift that they've accounted for when they corrected it. No, the NTSB aren't fudging the raw data from black boxes. It is not drifting. There is no measurement. It is measuring a flat Earth for surface level measurement to be parallel for flight level. Those are the axiomatic facts when measuring the pitch of the plane with respect to horizontal. And if you want to challenge that because you think, like Dave's suggesting in his video, if you believe Dave, you've got my email address, email the NTSB and tell them they are wrong when they measure Earth flat because they were supposed to be showing the account for the curve that vanished in their measurements of a flat Earth. So make sure you CC me in when you tell the NTSB, not me. I give a flying shit what you numpties say anymore. I've got measurements of Earth. It's flat. We checked. Now, if you want to say that my source is wrong, then you'll be challenging people who investigate death when people smash into the flat surface of Earth, measured off sea level, with altimeters, measured with respect to a horizontal plane of reference for the chord line of the wings, to be above the horizontal when in straight and level flight. Now, we've got these flat Earth measurements and we will rely on them. What we will not do is believe Dave when he tells you gyros drift. If you want to suggest they do, then show me in NTSB data that doesn't have that shown. You won't, so you'll CC me in telling the NTSB that what, they fudged the data? They removed the Earth curve from it, did they? Is that what the NTSB did? Did they remove the Earth curve? Did they make it vanish from the raw data of a flat Earth measurement? No. Nobody will be emailing the NTSB to tell them that they've made the Earth curve vanish from their flat Earth measurements. Nobody's going to be doing that. And if you decide that you're going to email me about it, I'll just reply with, I couldn't care less. I've got flat Earth measured, thanks, by the NTSB. We checked it's flat.
Gyro back to vertical
I'd
are
like
too
to
small.
fill in if I could have your ear for a moment.
No.
Sorry?
To impact a gyro for typical aircraft movement, but it's more...
Sorry, the typical aircraft movement that Dave said it deviates in terms of its orientation every second. Dave's a liar. And I challenge him to show that in the NTSB data. It's not there. But I challenge Dave to now email the NTSB to point out why this claimed deviation isn't in the information when they investigate people's deaths. Because Dave's suggesting that it should be there. It isn't. The measurements show Earth's measured flat, Dave. This data isn't there. You're a liar.
More than enough to keep the gyro moving to a local vertical as a plane travels around the globe.
Wait, there is no local vertical. I already covered this, didn't I? No, vertical is axiomatically tied to a horizontal plane if you're going to be measuring things. Vertical and horizontal are axiomatically tied together, perpendicular to one another. You don't have that on a globe, Dave. You've got in and out only. There is no horizontal plane of reference on a globe. Are you stupid? Were you dropped on your head? Do you not understand basic principles of sphericity? There is no plane to be vertical with respect to if you're on a ball, you stupid clown. Meanwhile, in NTSB measured flat Earth data, they've got a horizontal plane of reference. It's called sea level. The plane's flying level with respect to that axiomatic flat Earth principle that you don't have on a globe, dum-dum. You've got in and out only if you're going to suggest that the surface is curving. But if you're suggesting that the curving surface is what's measured, I'd expect you to show me on the pitch data. Oh, what's that? It vanished? No, Dave, it's just measured flat.
So with it always slowly moving back to vertical at a faster rate than the plane is moving around the curvature of a globe...
A gyro's not doing this. And if it was, and it was being corrected for this motion that Dave just showed, then it would be measured in pitch data. It isn't. Dave's a liar. There is no correction for the gyro, and the raw data shows it's flat. There's no deviation. If there was one, I'd expect it to be there and demonstrated in the raw data. Now, unless Dave's suggesting that it's been removed by the NTSB, then the simple axiomatic flat Earth measurement remains the black box measurement of Earth. It's flat. We checked. The plane isn't changing its orientation around the gimbal of the gyro, Dave. We'd see it in the measurements. And there aren't any deviations, Dave. The plane remains nose up to the horizon, 4 degrees above the horizontal, whilst in straight and level flight, Dave. That's what we measured. We checked Earth's flat.
Then it is always referencing the vertical from the plane's location.
Sorry, Dave, that's not a vertical. You've drawn a line from within the ball, like when I explained earlier that you're an idiot. Because you've got a line coming out of the ball, because that's all you have from a ball. In and out only. You don't have parallel. You don't have perpendicular. You don't have vertical. You've got in and out only. So where are you going to get your axiomatic flat Earth principle that's measured in the black box data that isn't showing this, Dave? Oh, who cares? The black box measurements of Earth don't show this, Dave. We're definitely not getting a gyro changing its orientation and needing correcting. And if it was, we'd have it measured, Dave. But we checked, Dave. We checked in the black box data. Earth's flat.
Rather than from the gyro's starting position. So its pitch angle will always be in respect to the horizontal of the aircraft, not the horizontal of where the gyro was started up. In reality, if the Earth were...
So according to Dave, the gyro's drifting from when it's erected at the starting position. Okay. Dave, my email address is nathanoakley1980@aol.com. I want you to take this up with the NTSB and explain to them that you say their measured data that does not show this is wrong. I expect to be CC'd in by Dave McKeegan when he contacts the NTSB about their incorrect assertions that the gyro remains fixed and rigid in space, measuring a 4-degree tilt above the horizontal whilst in straight and level flight with respect to the sea level. You see, this would seem kind of stupid to contact the NTSB about this, given that the axiomatic principle of sea level and flight level means that the Earth is level. Like, you can't get away with it, it's how it's measured. And that is what's measured. Dave's suggestion that these orientation changes occur is nothing more than a lie. An egregious lie that flies in the face of the measurements that are used to investigate people's death.
Were flat, then no such features would be needed in an aircraft gyro.
So that's your argument. No such features would be needed to correct for, what, a tight holding pattern? No, you need pendulous vanes for that, Dave. But the measurements of any deviation can be registered in black box data in case the plane crashes into the flat ground. And those measurements don't show any deviation around a curved surface, Dave. So obviously you're going to get in touch with the NTSB and ask them why they've removed them, right? Why they've vanished. And if they're self-correcting, we'll have some raw data to show that, won't we, Dave? Oh, we haven't. We've just got the flat Earth measurements of surface level for the straight and level flight. And if it isn't in straight and level flight, it's heading towards the flat ground, like I can demonstrate with a descent with an ILS, measured with respect to a flat plane. Yeah, everything about flight requires Earth be measured flat, Dave. Like we can show in multiple different ways with the ILS, with straight and level flight, with the pitch of the aircraft, with the horizontal plane of reference that's being utilised. Everything about flight is flat. There's no getting away from it, and Dave's suggestions are just that. A bullshitter trying to suggest that the deviations in the measurements from there aren't any. These aren't in NTSB measurements, Dave. You're just lying. And if they were, you'd show us. We show pitch data because Earth's measured flat in it.
Because all verticals would be parallel.
You don't have that on a globe, Dave. This is an axiomatic principle that requires Earth be flat. If you're going to apply it to Earth's surface, you've only got in and out on a globe. What kind of a numpty are you?
So the gyro would naturally remain in the same plane relative to Earth.
Dave, you don't need an explanation or an apology for why a gyro does what it does. It remains fixed in rigid space. That's what it does. That's what a gyro's used for, Dave. It's not doing it as an apologetics for being on a globe. That's just what it does. Now, Dave here thinks that maybe that's an apology that a globe is using when a gyroscopic motion spins up and remains rigid. No, Dave, that's just what gyros do.
The very nature of a gyro's rigidity in space.
Welcome to Flat Earth, Dave. They remain rigid in space, and the measurements of the gyros remaining rigid in space if they're not faulty. I mean, you can appeal to Bob Nodell after he got his hands on a crap reject gyro, one that's not on an aeroplane measuring life and death. I mean, you can appeal to Bob Nodell with a drifting gyro, but the ones that work remain rigid in space and measure Earth flat, Dave. That's correct. Nice that Dave understands the principle of gyroscopes that's useful and used to measure Earth when planes crash into the flat surface of it, measured off surface level, with a descent that you can show in an ILS is only with respect to a flat Earth always. Because that's how it's being measured, Dave, unlike your suggestions of this deviation that happens every second that we don't measure in black box data.
Would be enough for an artificial horizon on a...
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, what Dave is doing is the same thing that they've all done and they continue to do, which is try and hijack vertical and horizontal. These orientations can't exist on a globe. He said if the Earth was flat, all the verticals would be parallel. All verticals are parallel, Dave. All horizontals are parallel. He doesn't know what the pendulous vanes were created for was because precession was causing the gyro to lose horizontal. So the pendulous vanes correct the gyro back to horizontal via vacuum, right? He is trying to hijack vertical and horizontal, but then claim verticals diverge from each other and claim horizontals are continually changing orientation.
You keep chatting for a bit.
It's crazy.
I'm going to make a cup of coffee so I can stay live a bit longer if you can keep the conversation going.
Yeah, well, how pendulous vanes work is the horizontal gyro that's used as the artificial horizon within the attitude indicator has air pumped into it that makes it spin, right? That air is then directed downward where there is 4 ports that are partially covered and slightly offset from the coverings. What happens is that when precession takes hold in, let's say, a fighter jet or something like that, because it's banking hard or whatever, right? What happens is what happens is one of the ports open because the gyro swings. So one of the ports open, and instead of the force, because the gyro is spinning, instead of the force coming out that open port, because as that opens, another port closes, what happens is that the force is directed 90 degrees the opposite way, or 90 degrees to the port that's opened, forcing the gyro back, causing the pendulous vanes to force the gyro back into absolute horizontal. That's what they do. There is no such thing as correcting for curvature. The whole purpose of pendulous vanes was to make sure that there is no movement of the gyro. It doesn't do that. Now, besides all that, to create lift, the plane has to have the chord line of its wings above horizontal continually. Any pitch below that starting horizontal will be a drop below horizontal, and it will be officially, any pitch below horizontal is officially a descent. So how can a plane fly with its chord line of the wings above horizontal, right, for thousands of miles, and also fly around the globe? It can't. Horizontal cannot change as an orientation. That can't happen. Now, what I said earlier to Nathan concerning the descent formula, they use a right-angle triangle, and they only calculate for their altitude, right? So what a pilot will do, the pilot is at 37,000 feet, right, in altitude, and they want to end up 1,000 foot above the airport that they're coming into land in, right? So if they're at 37,000 feet and the airport is at 2,000 feet above sea level, let's just say, right, then they will calculate for 34,000 feet because they want to be 1,000 foot above the airport, and the airport when they come in to do their final landing, and the airport is 2,000 feet above sea level. Now, there's a lot more goes into it because you have to deal with stuff that might be in the way of coming into land, like mountains and different things like that. But besides all that, like that, because that kind of thing will change the distance that they have to decide to start coming into the descent form, right? But the point being is that the distance is a horizontal distance. It's calculated as a horizontal distance because their altitude is calculated as a vertical height. So if their calculations for 34,000 feet, then the length that they're going to have to deal with for the length of the adjacent will have to adhere to that. So that could be 90 miles. It depends on what, as I said, on different elements, different airports, what they're flying into. It could be 110 miles. It could be 160 miles. So does the pendulous vanes decide to stop correcting for curvature for that 160 miles? You know what I mean? These things don't happen.
Brian, may I interject? You're absolutely right that the pendulous vanes are not correcting. They're for Earth curvature or Earth drift. One thing I want to clarify on is that we can't conflate. There's a few different types of gyroscopes. Now, the type you're speaking about is a mechanical pneumatic gyroscope, which uses pendulous vanes, and the kind that Dave McKeegan is talking about is a mechanical electronic gyroscope, which has the mercury switches in it. Also has been brought up interferometry types of gyroscopes, the ring laser, the fiber optic, etc. And these each operate on different principles.
Just a second.
The claim that Dave McKeegan.
All gyroscopes, hang on 1 second. All mechanical gyroscopes have two functions of power. vacuum and electricity. They can both work off vacuum or electricity. Now, he can't talk about a ring laser gyro because they're only in the inertial navigation system, which is a separate, which we can go into, but we'll be talking about separate. That is completely separate from what's going on. Although it proves outright, proves the flat out, without a doubt.
Yeah.
All of it proves the flat out.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about ring laser gyros, you have to talk about the inertial navigation system. Because there's no ring laser gyro in the cockpit, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah. So the type that Dave McKeegan is talking about, the mechanical electronic, they have zero pneumatic operation. They're operated by electric motors. And this is the type that has the mercury level switch. And this is the type that I actually have, and I've been doing testing. It shows absolutely stationary Earth because the navigational grade gyros should detect the 15 degree per hour as well. But I believe the claim that Dave McKeegan is making with the mercury switch is that, and this would be like, so with Nathan Oakley, he's claiming we have NTSB data. Absolutely. Dave McKeegan's claim is that this is the input for the data. So it's correcting, he's claiming that it's correcting the actual data, like before we have the black box output. Now, he's wrong. Dave McKeegan is wrong, but I'll explain and clarify how he's wrong.
Correcting what?
McKeegan claims.
1 second.
I think
what this man is saying, Nathan. What this man is saying is what Dave is trying to claim concerning these mercury switches in this electrically powered gyro, right? What he's trying to say is McKeegan is trying to say that it's giving out the output of a flat Earth after it's corrected for globe. Right? This is what he's trying to say. That's the basis.
Corrected
of
what?
Yeah,
he's saying corrected for globe. What do you mean? What's for globe mean? What's the correction?
He's trying to say
that's the big claim of Dave McKeegan.
Yeah, I'll explain. You're not listening. What is being corrected?
The data output.
So you're saying there's an output that needs correcting. Okay, well, then I'm going to need to see that raw data pre-correction.
Right. And I'd like to clarify, I've seen the raw data from my gyroscope. So if I could have your ear for a moment, I'll explain how that mercury level switch device actually works within the
need to.
Mechanical
if it was being initiated, it would be registered in the NTSB data, wouldn't it?
Well,
that's not what Dave is saying.
What Dave's claim is that this correction happens before the data. So it's in the actual.
What correction? We're going around in circles. You're saying there's a correction.
Yeah.
Correcting from what?
So his baseless claim is
no, Brian, just chill.
Dave McKeegan's baseless claim is that the data output of a mechanical electrical gyroscope with the mercury switch that he goes on about is correct.
I've heard you tell me it's correcting 3 times. I've heard you tell me this. You've just repeated yourself again. It's very frustrating. What is the correction? What's being corrected? Are you suggesting that the gyro is drifting and that's what's being corrected?
I'm not. No.
What's Dave suggesting that's being corrected?
Yeah, and I'm going to explain why it's wrong. So
not yes. Oh my God, I'm just going to close the line to you. If you don't play ball with me, I'm going to ask you one more freaking time.
I'm trying to answer.
What's being corrected?
Nothing. He is claiming that something is being corrected.
And what's that something? For the love of God, this is irritating.
He's claiming that the curve is being corrected.
What curve is being corrected?
Of Earth.
Are we talking about gyroscopes?
Yeah.
And the gyroscope is allegedly being corrected. So what is the gyroscope being corrected for?
So its original orientation, as you've noted, is rigid in space. It starts out on a level takeoff on the runway, right? That's the initial orientation, XYZ, and the gyroscope. And so Dave's claim is that the Mercury switch is continually making it level as you fly over a curve.
A Mercury switch is making the...
Claim.
So the
Incorrect.
correction is the gyroscope moving from being rigid in space.
No, I believe his claim is that it's correcting for the curve of the Earth, not its rigidity.
What's the gyro doing that Dave is claiming is being corrected?
He's claiming that the gimbal is rotating
Perfect.
underneath.
If Dave is claiming that the gimbal is rotating about the fixed axis of the gyro, then that would be measurable in the pitch data, and it is not. If there's a correction to be made, then the pitch data would show it, because that correction would be factored in when they investigate people's death. It's not there in pitch data. Dave's suggestion that it's self-correcting, then I'd need some raw data to show the original measurement of deviation for the correction, which isn't shown in pitch data. It is not there. So this is Dave apologising, saying that it's already been corrected. No. Then it needs to be suggested, no, measured for me to show next man, when his wife's death's investigated by the NTSB, that it's been accounted for. Automatically or otherwise, I need to see this as raw data from the NTSB. Let's make that absolutely clear. If this gyro is automatically correcting a deviation in the gimbal, then I want to see those measurements from the NTSB. I want to see their paper about this correction when investigating people's deaths. My name is Nathan Oakley. My email address is nathanoakley1980@aol.com, and I expect the person suggesting that there's an automatic correction to this gyro that's deviating, so the gyro's moving in its cage, I want to see that measured. Why hasn't this been taken into account when they've investigated people's death? Why isn't it on the charts? Why isn't it in the black box data? I expect you, not me, to take this up with the NTSB, Dave, because this isn't there when they investigate people's deaths. Now, either the NTSB are ignoring Dave's claimed corrections, or they're hiding them, like making them vanish. But either way, I need, not me, Dave, to get to the bottom of this, because Dave is suggesting that these corrections that aren't logged and aren't measured are what, being removed by the NTSB? It's an outrage. If these aren't being accounted for, as Dave suggests that they are, then they're not doing a proper job investigating people's deaths, because there's a pre-correction that's not being logged. What if that's the reason the plane crashed into the ground, Dave? I'm going to need to see this logged officially for the correction Dave says is there by the NTSB. And if they haven't accounted for it, which they haven't, it's not in the measurements, then why haven't they? This could be the cause of people's deaths, right? So my email address is what I will expect you to CC this in on when you contact the NTSB to tell them that they haven't logged the pre-correcting gyro with the Mercury switches, because these are not in the measurements. Those are the facts.
It's
Why don't
not
we all
crazy,
contact-
Dave. Sorry.
Brian, go ahead.
I just think
Claims from
Just 1 second.
from Dave McKeegan, because it would be the engineers and the avionics, the
Whoever it is, they can be the ones that are appealed to, not me. Because if this data's not accounted for, if there's a correction in this gyroscope that isn't measured on this graph from the black box, I want to know why. Now, there's a suggestion that the NTSB are doing it wrong by Dave, because there's an auto-correcting gyro that's not being measured in black box data. Now, I want to know why the NTSB aren't investigating people's deaths correctly, because according to Dave, the self-correcting gyro's not being measured. Why not? People's lives are at stake. Why isn't everything being accounted for? If there's a self-correcting gyroscopic motion that Dave suggests there is, then why aren't they investigating it? Why aren't they measuring it? I'll tell you why. Because there isn't. The NTSB are not doing anything incorrectly. Dave's assertion's incorrect. There is no self-correcting gyroscopic motion. If there was, it'd be measured, it would be documented by the NTSB, and it isn't. What do we get from the NTSB? Well, we get the measurements of the Earth flying over sea level in straight and level flight. That's a flat Earth measurement. So Dave's got to say that there's a self-correction for the curve that we're not measuring? It's an outrage. If that is the case, then Dave better get on the line with the NTSB and tell them to include it. If it's there, if there's a self-correction, according to this liar, Dave McKeegan, then he better get on the phone to the NTSB, Bedney. I'm not going to be doing it. I say that they just measure Earth flat, because that's how Earth's measured. I say that the NTSB are doing it correctly when they measure Earth flat, when they don't show any self-correcting, vanishing Earth curve. They're just measuring Earth flat, because they're investigating the deaths correctly to the best of their ability with the flat Earth measurements from the black box. They're not excluding Earth curve that Dave McKeegan suggests is there being self-corrected but not measured. No, Dave. No, not at all. Far from it, in fact. How dare you?
Yeah, isn't that crazy that he's actually claiming that this gyro with the mercury switches is correcting prior to the data. So it's correcting the data. We're making the data obsolete. Wouldn't that make the data obsolete?
Well, if this is correcting the data, then the data's being messed with before it goes into the black box. What an outrage. People's lives aren't being investigated properly if this is the case. If this gyro's being meddled with, and the meddling of the gyro, the self-correcting meddling that gravity's doing, isn't being measured, then I want to know why the deaths haven't been investigated correctly by the NTSB, and I expect the people who are telling us that the flat Earth that's measured isn't correct, it's actually got self-corrections before the black box raw data. What an outrage. Why didn't we know about this sooner? Deaths could have been avoided if it were true. It's not true. Dave's a liar. We don't have any self-correcting gyros. We've got raw data from gyros. And those raw data measurements of a flat Earth show whether or not the plane is in straight and level flight with respect to sea level. There's no self-correcting gyros. If there was, the NTSB wouldn't be doing their job correctly. And I expect to see this information presented so it could be investigated also if people's lives have been lost. It doesn't exist. It won't ever get investigated. There is no self-correcting gyros in this regard. Dave's a liar.
So the claim that Dave about this self-correction, he gets it from Wikipedia on the Mercury switch, where the aircraft attitude indicators use these Mercury switches to trigger torque motors to move the gyro position. Now, that actually does happen at startup. It doesn't happen during flight. It happens at startup when you're on the level runway. And this gives you your rigidity, your original orientation. And from that point, the gyro is maintaining that level flight. And on the mechanical gyros with the Mercury switch, there is an indicator light that once it spins up and those torque motors get it to level, and then it maintains that level all the way from before takeoff to landing. And this indicator light, if it ever goes or deviates from that, as is claimed from Earth drift. Now, we also need to clarify there's two types of drift. Earth drift, that there is a baseless claim, and drift from the device, which would be mechanical drift.
Precession.
Which these pendulous vanes, his claim is that the Mercury switch also corrects for that, but it's not right. This indicator light, once it has level, it stays lit up. Green light, on, go. And it maintains that through the entire flight. And so this is just actually another flat Earth proof, because that Mercury switch maintains level the same way the mechanical gyroscope maintains level and puts out the data, which NTSB has. And so I just wanted to clarify on that. So hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Flat Earth. The only reason aircraft gyros have erecting systems in them is precisely because the Earth isn't flat.
Sorry, it's the erecting system that's just been described by Nathan is leveling the system on the ground, and it's leveling it. So to say that a system used for leveling a gyro when spinning it up and getting it in rigid motion in space to be useful as a reference, you are leveling effectively the gyroscope. And on an old-fashioned gyro, I had a button called cage, where once it's spun up, you press the button and it resets everything on the assumption that your plane is on a level tarmac on the ground. You press the cage button and it achieves the same ends. But as Adam's just as the other Nathan has just explained, that's done on the ground. Dave's now explaining that because Earth's not flat, we need this system to level the gyro. What an absurd notion. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, what Nathan said is totally correct. There's actually, well, I'd make one small correction. Well, not really a correction, right? Because he's correct. He's right. They're literally claiming two drifts. One is mechanical drift, called precession, which is what the pendulous vanes were invented to deal with. The other one is a drift, right, caused by the rotation of the globe, right? Now, what they're actually doing is they're hijacking the mechanical drift and trying to say that is the drift that's connected to their power line. No, it is not. That is mechanical drift, called precession. Once again, there is no other drift. There's only one type of drift, and it's accounted for as mechanical drift, and it's accounted for by pendulous vanes. So either these people are just straight out liars or are too stupid to understand these very simple concepts. There's only two options here.
And they do the same thing with the Coriolis of long-range shooting. So they claim it's the Coriolis effect of the Earth, when it's actually a spinning projectile. A bullet does have a Coriolis effect because it's spinning. It's actually spinning, the bullet is.
No, it doesn't.
So they calculate.
No, it does not. No, it doesn't. Bullets don't have Coriolis effect.
No, it doesn't.
That's wrong.
Maybe there's a different term for it, but they are spinning, and they do have to correct for that spin of the bullet, because if you know the right-hand rule from physics, when the force is applied, it's gonna, in a rotating motion, it's gonna apply a torque and to deviate from where they're aiming.
Yeah.
Why would the bullet spin? Why would the bullet be spinning?
The bullets spin because of rifling in the barrel of the gun.
Yeah.
It makes it more accurate to spin a bullet.
Yeah. But that has nothing to do with the Coriolis effect.
Right, and that's what they conflate. They mix that up and say, see, they're correcting for Coriolis, but it's actually...
That's not what they're mixing up. That's not correct. What they're trying to claim is the Earth is rotating underneath the punch, which it's not.
Right, and they're wrong.
Yes. Coriolis is a claim that Earth turns underneath, because the claim is you observing things look like they drift as you turn underneath. So when you said about the bullet spinning, as soon as you said that the bullet experiences Coriolis because it's spinning, no. In terms of Coriolis effect, the spin is you on a rotating reference frame. So it's you spinning as you observe things that aren't spinning. So in the case of a Coriolis deflection with a ball, the ball is tossed over the top of you spinning on a roundabout, and because you're spinning on a roundabout, the ball that's travelling straight looks like it curves. Well, if this was applicable to Earth, you've got you on a spinning Earth turning underneath aeroplanes. That shortens their flight times. That doesn't happen. Anyway.
Just back to David. I mean, surely.
Hold on one deck. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Nathan.
mate.
Just round out. Go ahead.
All right, just to close on the bullets. So the actual spin of the bullet does cause the bullet to hit differently than where they aimed, and they conflate that with Earth Coriolis. And so this, anyway.
I see what you're saying. You're saying a deviation in a bullet as it spins, having been rifled from the barrel, there's a certain torque that will change the trajectory because of the spin, and they would suggest that deviation, which is an actual deflection of the bullet, is conflatable with Coriolis effect or describable as Coriolis effect, when in reality, if you're going to use a bullet in the example of a Coriolis effect, it's the bullet always travelling straight, immediately violating this example because the bullet's deviating in an actual path. If the bullet's actually curving, then it's not the not actual drift experienced as you turn underneath something moving straight. That drift is a not actual drift. It's an illusion of drift because you turned underneath something, like a ball tossed over a roundabout. You look up at the ball and it looks like it takes a curved path. Well, if the ball was taking an actual curved path, then you're not describing the illusion of Coriolis effect, are you? If the bullet's actually curving, then it's got absolutely sod all to do with any Coriolis effect, because Coriolis effect is the illusion of things drifting. Now, that illusion, if it's to do with aeroplanes, would be me looking up at an aeroplane and going, oh, look, that plane that's travelling straight looks like it's curving, as I turn underneath it, shortening its flight time because the ground's turning underneath it. Now, that doesn't happen. There is no Earth-based Coriolis effect. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? You and your reference frames are ruined, Nathan. No, Dan. No, these aren't my reference frames, mate. Yeah, I don't need to claim Earth's turning underneath aeroplanes, shortening their flight times till you realise that doesn't happen. Those two reference frames are a globe Earth failure, not mine. Hope that's clear.
I just thought of something. And like, you should respond to, like, I guess what normies would think are good sources. Like when they look up an argument and they're referred to flatearth.ws or whatever the website is. Like, we should respond to stuff like that because they talk about Coriolis, and it's like, instead of talking with a glober who's going to mix and match things and lie and obfuscate to lose the point, we could just be dealing with the original claims.
No, I'm good. I don't need to. Let me explain, Eli. No offence to you. We've checked Earth's measured flat. In every single measurement of Earth ever, it's flat. We checked. Do I need to address the numpty dipshit arguments that the ball Earth creates, having created the ball from those flat Earth measurements that we checked on and were flat? No, I don't need to. I don't need to debate this with anybody anymore. Don't need you, me looking down the camera at globe Earthers who think that I need to discuss this with them. I don't need to discuss this with you anymore. We checked it's flat. That's how it is measured. You aren't needed anymore. Now, no, that's kind of being addressed to Eli because he's the one saying that we should go and address these numpties who say otherwise. But we've already got the measurements, haven't we, Eli? We don't really need them anymore. The numpties, that is.
Yeah, but my intention really was towards, because it excited me when you, what were you just talking about? I mean, everything that we're talking about, when we're talking about pitch data and we're talking about how, subsequently the gyro's not drifting. So we're getting into the territory of talking about what we're seeing versus what you're expecting on a globe. And it's the closest we've touched on something like that in a while. And all I'm saying is normies, not the people that we actually argue against, but normies haven't heard that stuff. They just Google the stuff and they're like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. They haven't actually heard the rebuttal because it's an ongoing service that you're supposed to be doing. Evergreen, remember?
Yeah, I'll still
You're
be here.
supposed to be
What I'm saying is I
servicing
don't
the
have to
people.
go proactively chasing down our opponents to tell them Earth's measured flat. It always was, and we've checked the measurements show it's flat. That's it. I don't need them
Well,
anymore.
if you're
There's no
going to
debate
a
anymore.
website, are you attacking an opponent or are you talking about an argument that's false?
Well, I'm saying that they need to create the false impression of an argument by creating these websites. Me, I'm done with them. I don't need them anymore. Now, for the last 10 years, there's been this impression that we have a symbiotic relationship with our opponents while we argue about this subject. Now I'm saying there is no longer any need for any symbiotic relationship. I don't need them to tell me about what I am not understanding when I read flat Earth measurement data. I don't need to talk to Dan or Dave or Craig about the measurements of Earth. We checked, it's flat. That's how it's measured. So they become surplus to any requirements I have to communicate that with my audience. Now, obviously, the door's still open and they can come in and say, you don't understand how when I measure surface level... No, surface level. End of this discussion that never existed. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Captain Edgewise is saying that Brian's wrong about something and he wants to address him. So you could come off mute, Captain Edgewise, and address Brian, because he's not wrong.
Yeah, come off mute.
No, I'm not saying Brian is wrong. I want Brian to clarify something for me because Nathan was talking the whole time about.
Sorry, you want to clarify something for me? No, I'm good, thanks. I've got NTSB pitch data, Captain Edgeware. We measured Earth, we checked, it's flat. I've just explained to my audience quite explicitly that we don't need you to come along to clarify things for us. We're all good. We've got measurements.
See you next Tuesday.
So was that you saying see you next Tuesday through the top of me telling my audience that we measure Earth flat? Is that what you were doing? Meanwhile, we don't need you to clarify anything for us, Captain Edgewise. I certainly don't need you to call me a see you next Tuesday. Yeah, I'm good. We've got NTSB data. We measured Earth. We checked it's flat. We're good. We don't need you to clarify anything for us. You started off by saying, I just want to clarify. I'm good. We don't need you, thanks. We don't need you to clarify anything. We're good. We've got measurements of Earth. It's flat. Do you want anything from us? Do you need me to clarify anything for you?
That's what I want to say. I didn't want to clarify anything for you. I wanted some clarification from Brian. Because you said there is no error correction, no drift correction. Brian states there is an error correction with pendulous vanes in the air, not only at startup, but also in the air, to keep it level. So my question for Brian is now, when I read the signal of the pitch data, is the error still in the pitch data, or do I get the corrected real pitch value without the error?
I don't understand his question. Do you understand his question, Brian?
Can you say it again? I'm in a bit of a noisy place, and the line is not great.
Once more?
Sure. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you said the gyro is being corrected, right, on a flat Earth to keep it level, to keep it pointing at the same thing, due to the mechanical
It's not
error.
what Brian said. No, let's just clarify that first of all, Captain Edgeware. No, that's what it shows in the measurements of Earth when it shows Earth's being measured flat. That's what the measurements show. Do you understand that, first of all? You're suggesting it's what Brian says?
Yeah.
So was that a yes?
Yes.
This man, Captain Edgeware, is a baller who is now accepting that Earth is measured flat in the pitch data. There is no further discussion, Captain Edgeware. Can you please not interrupt me while I conclude? We accept, you accept, I accept. Earth is measured flat in this data. There's no discussion to have. I don't care what you interpret Brian to have said. You've just accepted that Earth's measured flat in this data. Again, I'll just reiterate, Captain Edgewise. I didn't need you to clarify this for me. We didn't need any clarity. We checked. It's measured flat. Now, it's nice that you've agreed, but didn't need that agreement. I already knew it was measured flat, like I keep telling you. We checked. And you know it's measured flat too, don't you? I don't hear you agreeing, Captain Edgewise. It's no worries. We don't need your affirmation. We know it's measured flat. We checked. You agreed. That's how it's presented in the data. To have a deviation from it, to correct from it, right? From the horizontal plane of reference we measure. Yeah, that's Earth being measured flat. For this correction you're asking Brian about. But we must first have you on your knees in acceptance of the flat Earth that's measured. So thank you, Captain. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Play a short description, get down to it.
Say again, John?
I said it's really we get down to it.
Didn't understand a word of that.
I think you guys are on Bluetooth. You just got to get off that Bluetooth.
Yeah, it's ruined the flow of the show, but there we go. That's life.
One more.
So once we've accepted the flat Earth measurements in the data, Captain, there's nothing more to discuss here. I'm sure you appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just speaking with that situation for the discussion.
I can't understand a word you're saying. You've got a crap mic. Your mic's a train wreck. Get a better mic.
But I'm not going to say yes. I'm probably not.
Your mic's a train wreck. Get a better mic.
Yeah, Captain, we can't understand the word you're saying.
What I did understand is your affirmation when you said yes in respect to the flat Earth measurements from the data. We checked, it's measured flat. For you to move forward in terms of your question about a correction from the horizontal plane of reference in the data, you had to accept that Earth was measured as a horizontal plane of reference, and you did, which is nice of you. Now, it wasn't up for contention. That's what the measurements of Earth show. There's no contesting this, and if you do, then you're essentially challenging the National Transportation Safety Board's integrity when they show raw data of a flat Earth that's been measured. It's axiomatically tied to flight level and sea level. So nobody's going to be challenging the NTSB because that's what Earth is measured as, a flat plane. You have to like it. That's how it's measured. We checked Earth's flat.
Flat, non-rotating.
Once more.
And contained because planes need air pressure to fly, and pressure requires containment.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me? Am I coming in okay?
You're just as much of a train wreck. Got 3 train wreck mics. Fun.
Just while he's doing that, though, that Dave McKeegan is giving out this fraudulent information. Something needs to be done about that. I mean, this shouldn't be allowed. This shouldn't be allowed to happen. If he's giving out this information where life and death situations, accounts on this information and how devices work, something needs to be done. I think everybody listening to this should contact Dave McKeegan and ask him for this data and tell him that he's incorrect and it's fraudulent.
Yeah, what he's doing is downright dangerous, is what you're saying. The suggestion that the data's not been accounted for, that there's self-corrections that aren't logged in raw data that's used to investigate death, is an outrage. And it should be stopped. Dave should be stopped with his suggestions that the NTSB raw data has been corrected without any account for it. What an outrage. No, I'm just going to suggest that no, there is no self-correcting, non-accounted for curvature in the flat Earth NTSB measurements of Earth's surface for sea level and parallel flight level. That's just sea level and parallel flight level that's been measured. And this correction that Dave says has been applied to the raw data that they're using to investigate people's death is just Dave being a scumbag. Because it doesn't occur. There is no self-correction. And if there was, I'd expect the NTSB to show that. They don't, because it isn't there. Dave's just a liar. He needs to be stopped.
I agree. They're constantly shouting for you to be stopped, shut your channel shut, and we're giving out correct information. These guys are putting out nonsense.
Yeah, they're suggesting that there's a perversion to the raw data in black boxes. That's what Dave's saying. He's saying that before we get the raw data that the NTSB used to investigate people's deaths, it's already been altered and corrected. That's what Dave's saying. There's no account for it, there's no log of it, but apparently we're using this unaccounted, corrected data that's not raw. No, Dave, you're a lying, shitty scumbag that deserves to belong in hell. That's what you deserve for your suggestions that everybody's death that was investigated by the NTSB just ignored the self-correcting data that you're suggesting wasn't accounted for. No, it wasn't accounted for because it isn't there. Or it would be there, it would be measured. It's not Earth's measured flat in the black box data. We checked Earth's flat. And that is the data relied upon by the NTSB when they investigate people's death. The flat Earth data is what they say explicitly is raw, unaltered data. Dave's a liar. He's saying it's got corrections made to it before they use it for investigation. Scum! Dave needs this channel removed for his misinformation. He's saying NTSB aren't using raw data to investigate people's death. What a scumbag! Bringing into question the NTSB's integrity. What a scumbag! I say the NTSB aren't fudging anything. They aren't taking corrected data. I say the NTSB are using raw data. And Dave's just wrong and a liar.
Why would you have corrections with the gyro? If you had corrections needed for the gyro, is the gyro broken?
Yeah, this is all thoughts.
Is the gyro broken is my question. The next question is it self-correcting for elevation? Hello?
These are the questions being put to you, Muppets, not me. So this is explicitly clear. QE is asking you, dickheads, who suggest NTSB have violated the raw data they used to investigate death. These questions from QE are being put to you, idiots, who believe you're on a ball.
Well, the elevation on these flights are pretty much constant at straight and level flight. So if the gyro's being corrected, that number one, that's a faulty gyro. Number two, then the elevation data would have to need correction also. Correct?
Yes, but it isn't. That's not what the data shows.
Also, the Earth's not spinning according to the NTSB.
Yeah, there's no deviation. What Dave showed in his diagrammatical examples of the gyro, which would be corrected and measured if it was true, would also infer that the Earth was turning underneath this gyroscopic example that Dave makes in his diagram. If the gyro is being reorientated, then Earth is turning underneath the spinning reference of the gyro. Therefore, we have a Coriolis deflection. And Earth is turning underneath aeroplanes, shortening their flights when going west, meaning that a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take an hour and a half, instead of the 4.5 hours it actually takes, because Earth is not turning underneath, as Dave suggests in his diagrams.
Wouldn't the pitch of the plane be affected constantly then also?
Absolutely, without question, like he shows in his diagrams. The cage would be the plane around this gyro, alleged to remain rigid in space, with the cage moving around it, which would show in a pitch alteration in pitch data. It is not demonstrated or measured that way by NTSB. What we actually get is Earth being measured as a flat plane. Shockingly, it's for straight and level flight.
Also, there is no nonsensical Coriolis effect with bullets. It's called spin drift.
I didn't know that. Spin drift is what the spin of the bullet force would be, as opposed to the illusion of drift as we turn underneath things.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Coriolis effect. It has to do with the right-hand twist in the rifle barrels.
I think that's what the guy said.
I just caught Coriolis effect with weapons.
But from what I understood about the rifling, they're not always right-hand rifling. See, from what I understood, on Wikipedia. In the southern hemisphere, they have left-hand rifling to account for this problem.
Oh, I was waiting for that.
Right, any other nonsense? I think we've done enough.
Who is this? Is this Dave McKeegan? I only caught
Yes.
little bits and pieces. So he's saying that the black box data, the output is the corrected data. Well, then you got a faulty gyro, right? That's what it sounds like to me.
But I'm saying no, because that's not what's shown in NTSB pitch data. Now, if he's saying that the gyro is faulty or has a correction made to the raw data, then we've got a big problem, because what is being used to investigate death has been corrected. Outrage. Absolutely disgusting to even suggest such a thing.
What was his support? Did he support this?
He supported it with a 1950s black and white demonstration of a claim that a cartoon of a gyro drifts.
Delusional Dunning-Kruger numpty dipshit. Just making shit up, you retard, huh, Dave? Where's he at? Let me go get him.
Where's Dave at? I mean, he's drafting his email to the NTSB as we speak, telling them that they should include the corrections to the raw data.
In other words, the gyro maintains its axis in relation to space and not to the surface of the Earth. If a gyro moves around the Earth, its axis is vertical to the Earth's surface here, at an angle here, and horizontal here.
So this drift has long been known about. Now,
Ed?
Those are three whammies, I heard.
Yeah, those were three axiomatic flat Earth measurement principles that were described in that movie. Correct. Yeah, I did go through it when we went through it the first time, which is to say you don't have perpendicular level or angles. I heard that time, which I didn't hear the first time. All of those things require a flat Earth.
What was that game show? It had the whammies on it. Remember an old-timey game show? Whammy.
I think it's Whammy Time on the Whammy channel. I think it was at Whammy Hour.
It used to have these trolls and stuff come up and take your money away. What the hell was that game? Never mind. I'll figure that.
Joey was going to do a Wicked Wango show on Friends. Could be that you're thinking of. Like,
This is game show, dude.
Anyway, anything I need to plug? You got a show on or anything? If not, I'm going to round out this live show.
You don't need to round out as quick. I've done you a thumbnail to say.
Yeah, relax.
You've done me a thumbnail? Oh, I feel privileged. Excellent. Right, let's have a look.
Saying it today, so I thought, well, why not?
See if I can bring it up.
Yeah, you got the big guns in here today, and you're looking to round out. Just relax a little bit.
Thank you, Adam. It says it's flat. We checked. That's excellent.
The game show. The game show is Press Your Luck. That's what
Press Your
called.
Luck.
Hello. Yeah, Press Your Luck. Yeah, we're gonna watch something after you go.
From the
we shut down
from the 1930s.
It's not from the 1930s, from 70s and 80s.
McKeegan's pushing his luck.
Right, I'm going to round out. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. Should really check and see if there's been any super chats that I've missed. Let's have a quick look. No, nobody to thank. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.